Fun fact, on Saturday, Welsh Pro men's side scored a total of 69 points, which means combined they still would have lost to South Africa. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the WRRAP podcast. The autumn is over at last. We've had some URC. It's time to talk about swinging to Europe. I'm joined as ever by Nick, Dan, Hattie. Have we mentally and emotionally recovered from the weekend yet?
No. That was emphatic for you, was it? No.
I was very lucky. I was up in Edinburgh. And by the way, if you want to go to a game, it's a nice place to go and watch in the Hive. It's very compact, very nice stadium. And it really cheered me up. If I'd have probably not been in the mood I'm in, had I have just come straight from watching Wales. So, yeah. I'm sort of just trying to forget about it, really, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, I got up this Sunday morning and obviously knew what was going to happen, but yeah, that was last week I said I hope it isn't the time Mason Grady got turned inside out, and unfortunately it was 80 minutes of Mason Grady getting turned inside out.
Despite Mason Grady actually playing really well about 2 hours before.
Yeah,
but we'll get on to that
it was
later.
just a vibe. It was just a Mason Grady getting turned inside out as a vibe was how Wales played.
Right, so we're not going to do this game to death because other people are doing it. And frankly, one of our big goals in this game is to try and draw positives. And frankly, that game was a mulligan. I have nothing constructive to say about it. So if anyone has anything they want to throw in, the floor is open.
Okay, do we get any positives out of it? What are the positives we can take away from that?
I don't think we can, Dan. I was only watching the pub, but I failed to see what we could get anything out of the game. We were physically hammered. We were dominated. Our scrum was going backwards. We were playing, well, the best team in the world. I would argue their second 23 is probably the second best team in the world. And the team we put out, we probably struggled to beat Spain, USA, Uruguay. So I don't see any positives in that. I thought Derby did all right. I thought Wainwright did okay. Kai quite well. But after that, you're really clutching the straws to find anything good to say about that game.
Yeah, like for me, I'm similar to you. I've been reaching for something. It was heavily criticised beforehand, and maybe rightly so. Maybe the sort of one misguided positive is that it gives us, I think, a proper benchmark, because I think that we did in the Argentina game and the All Blacks game was for 4 tries, which was again probably not our frontline team due to a couple of injuries here and there, like Faletau being out and then Jack Morgan being out as well. And we did okay in those games, and we played poorly against Japan but won. And ultimately, I suppose this shone a light on our lack of depth, because I think even if we went fully loaded, and I say fully loaded with Rhys Carey and Nicky Smith being available, the 2 second rows that started the other fixtures, and then a back row of Faletau, Morgan, we can argue the toss about Tommy Reffel being involved. I just think it's shown some of these boys that they're not that level.
Definitely.
And the work that they're going to have to do to get to that level. Now, that may be for someone like a Ben Carter, a Rhys Davis, who's got a fairly high ceiling, and Alex Mann, who's got a high ceiling, even like Dan Edwards, who I think is the incumbent in that 10 jersey for years to come. But that, for me, which shows those guys where they need to be. Because we've lost, again, what would arguably be, a South African A team against what would effectively be a Wales A team, and we've been battered, absolutely blown off the park. Second to absolutely everything. Set piece was poor. They manhandled us. They were big, bigger, fitter, faster, stronger. All of these things, and I think it's shown the real cracks that have clearly appeared in Welsh rugby over the last decade. Because I'm not one of these that necessarily always buys into, they've just got bigger men than us. Yeah, they generally got some bigger people than we may have, but I thought they look fitter, they look stronger, their strength and conditioning is clearly better than ours. They look better coached, and that was the eye opener for me. So I think this should where the line in the sand is drawn. Surely we can only improve from here. Surely.
I've got a question to ask about that, but I'll let the other guys come in first.
Just one thing. So last time with the All Blacks, I sort of pointed out that going on the much aligned points table from world rankings, and the equivalent of New Zealand playing us is us playing Zimbabwe. For this game, it was the equivalent of us playing Czechia, who won the Europe Trophy, which is the third division of European international rugby. Like this is the golf that's engaged because of everything. Whether it's players going, etc. This was always been painful. The question is do we think we could beat Czechia 73-0?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would lose out on the pool kit scenario though, because they've got excellent kit. If anybody's seen it, it's
our kits
stunning.
have been awful since 2019. I've not liked a kit Wales kit since 2019. So that's actually to be fair, I kind of like the women's rugby World Cup jersey this year.
It's a nice jersey.
The difference you were on about there, I think, is it would be night and day. We batter those purely from a conditioning perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they did us.
You're on about, as they did us. The other questions I got, and I'll open the floor up to this, is that I got three questions actually. Did you see Khaleesi's interview afterwards, and what did you think of his words? And then from a Welsh rugby perspective, do we need to manage our expectations a little bit, and how long is it going to be before we get back?
I did hear what Sir Khaleesi said, and I understood what he said, and I understood the sentiment behind it, but I still don't think South Africa was near the point that we are. I think they had issues and they turned them around. They won the World Cup the following year. If we went into a World Cup in 12 months' time, we'd be screwed. Like that, there is no. Yes, you look at the national team and you're like, oh, we're having a bad run of results, blah blah blah, but like everything underneath the national team is rotten and needs to be rebuilt. So whilst I understood the sentiment, I didn't really think it was 100% the same or even similar, to be honest.
No.
They're very different situations.
Can I go back to
so what? Yeah, go on, Nick. Sorry.
Go back to the second question. I think it will take time. I think we're looking at 4 or 5 years. I think we can, we hope to get to the round of 16 in the next World Cup, but it's really the World Cup in USA, I think, is where we're going to be judged. And I know Redding has his critics, and rightly so, because he doesn't come over well at times. He has that attitude, and some of the things he's saying don't come over well, in my opinion. But if you try and divorce yourself, and it's really difficult because we're all so passionately involved in our teams, but around the loss of a professional teams, and for me and Hattie, let's be honest, one of those teams is likely to be a West Wales team.
Yeah.
I do see some good things planned. I actually, and it might not make me popular, I actually agree with any of the structural changes he and the WRU are trying to implement around player pathways and coach development. He's got a very, very good track record in regards to this in around British Olympics and the build-up to London 2012, and then afterwards in English Football Association. I'm not a football fan, but you can't argue they've improved as in football terms. The 12 national player development centres for youngsters, providing there's a really good geographical spread across Wales, including especially the rural areas, links to educational hubs, etc., is sound. And I personally don't have any problem with centrally employed staff to ensure consistency and quality control. And even to the extent I don't have any issue around double employed strength and conditioning staff, to answer your challenge, really, I suppose, Dan, and physios and even coaches. I know that's not very popular, but and clearly we're not, the 4 regional academies not worked. Now, you massively blame the Welsh Rugby Union about lack of investment and a clear strategy, but we produced too few top internationals in the last 7, 8 years. So two
Yeah.
top-class academies with excellent facilities, top-class staff, especially around strength and conditioning, is a sound way forward for me. And as I say, we had a conversation offline, didn't we, Dan? This morning, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry to sound a broken record on this. Something has to change. But I agree, the way it's been done has been a PR disaster.
Yeah, and those were my words to you this morning, weren't they? I think that irrespective of all the potentially good things that are being implemented in the women's game, the pathway, going back to schools, all the academies, and the shared facilities between the male and the female game, etc. All these good things that are going on. The fact that the PR disaster around the professional game at the moment, specifically on the men's side of the house, it's overshadowing. It's politics at the end of the day, isn't it? And it's overshadowing all the good work that they're doing, or potentially going to do. So, yeah, I agree with you. I've seen some things that I like in terms of pathway and structure, etc. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. Patty, just going back to your point in relation to Sia Khaleesi and what he said, because I picked up on this, and I'd actually just rewatched Chasing the Sun 1. I don't know if whoever's listening, if you haven't watched it, go to URC TV, and watch Chasing the Sun 1. And basically, it breaks down the issues that South African rugby was having. And it was from as far back as 2015. They lost to Japan in that World Cup. They went on a run whereby they didn't beat Wales on 4 or 5 occasions. For example, they lost 57-0, I want to say, albeit away to the All Blacks. They had some real problems. And he's right, they were having people burning South African jerseys in the street. They couldn't get people in the grounds. They had a couple of teams in what was a Pro 14 at the time, and then they had some teams in Super Rugby. They had all sorts of problems. They also had the quota issue that they needed to battle as well. And it wasn't until Razzie came in and gripped a hold of it. Now, I know you're not comparing apples with apples, it's apples and oranges, but I suppose they went down to 8th or 9th in the world, I think, at one point, South Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, by all means, I'm sure you will. But that was their lowest step. But I think my overall point with it is that they brought the right man in for the job, and they let him then go to work. And the other point as well is, and I stuck this on X, they didn't actually cut any rugby teams. They lost the Southern Kings. However, the Southern Kings went bust and insolvent during COVID. They didn't make the strategic decision to cut the team. Now, I know they've got more players and the player pool's bigger and so on and so forth, but they had their own difficulties. So for me, what I suppose is a long way of saying it, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, but we have to get right this time around. If it's not done right, we're in a vicious cycle.
Jump in on that, just because I know where some people are going to go when you point out the Southern Kings went bust. I'd like to, just before people go, see, well, they let the team go bust, they didn't save them. Yes, but the South African Rugby Union did save Western Province, who also were in financial difficulty because it was such a big part one. Just saying.
Yeah, but that was also during the time as well, Ali, to point out they were pulling their teams at the Super Rugby and putting them into the European competition. Now, they could have folded the Cheetahs in theory because they pulled them out out of the Pro 14 at the time, but they didn't. They still play in the Currie Cup. And
it was around COVID. And they play next week in the...
Yeah. I'm actually guessing we were all looking forward to an away trip in Amsterdam. So we've got Ulster at home instead, because that's a clash we've never had before. Anyway,
but even more so, those professional teams in the Currie Cup, they pro teams in the Currie Cup, right?
Yeah.
It's not so. When people are jumping on Sia Khaleesi saying, he's just talking bullshit effectively, I don't think that he is. It's not apples with apples, it's apples and oranges. We've got, culturally we've got different player pool, all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it is like at the end of the tunnel if we get it right.
Yeah.
I said, I can't get where where you come from it because it is a thing. Like, a lot of people criticise Scotland for going too easy, but I do feel like it's almost like the Dragons are playing top teams every week. But was it really doing much for the confidence when they were getting 60 points put on them when they went to Dublin? Does that help? I know a lot of people have had taken 60 at Dublin, but you know there's a lot of issues like questions of the mentality of Dragons players. I can't say how a game like that doesn't do the same thing to all the other Welsh players.
Yeah,
I think there are
Yeah.
limit. You do have to sort of sliding scale that maybe what now we're a bit worse. Let's actually let's fill some of these games where we're not fully stacked with some confidence building games, and then start giving them a bit like Gatland used to throw everyone in. Any squad player used to throw in the tier 2 game. And
Mm.
then towards 2019, he actually started being a bit more clever with his rotation and started bringing in players to play your Islanders, New Zealand's a bit at a time. Not just pluck in, say, Paul Mackenzie Martin, not plucking him out. I know this is in Gatland, but not plucking him out when he's barely out of the academy, throwing him up against people and then dropping him because he's not ready.
Yep.
I
Should
think
we?
that. And I think that's enough for the Wales game, unless
Do you want
anyone
to
has
finish on
anything
a
further.
positive?
Go on. Yeah, I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed, but go on.
It was actually the best our line out has been all autumn. It was 100%.
There you go,
Because
guys.
we only threw it in twice, something like that.
No,
Yeah.
11 times actually. We had 11 line
Okay.
I
outs.
would like
One
to
I-
point
overthrow.
out what one was technically a win, but considering it was an overthrow, because I don't know whether I've watched it back and I can't work out if Dewi Lake has overthrown it, expecting one of the taller locks to be catching it. Man has jumped too late and the lift isn't quite as good. But either way, Dan Evans catches it, so it's Dan Edwards, not Dan Evans. He hasn't played in blooming years. Caught it and then is immediately turned over. Which, to be fair, good reactions on Dan Edwards for that one.
Do
Mm.
you,
But
do
yeah,
you think, taking the autumn internationals as a whole, because there have been 4 games and not just this one disaster, which Welsh player do you think has come out with the most money in the bank?
Alex Mann.
Yeah.
I know it's easy for me to say this as a Cardiff player, but
Okay.
I think he's proven he's more than good enough for this level. I think, his work rate and just the amount of effort he gets through the park he's brilliant.
Yeah, I
I,
think
I,
Alex.
I, I don't, sorry, Harry, I don't disagree with you that he's done well, but again, if everyone's fit, I don't pick him in the back row.
Dewi Lake.
I think the thing
Uh,
is with
I don't think Derry Lake's
Lake
done
and
any
with
more or any less than what I expected him, what he's already shown. He's
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
he's shown he can compete physically at
But I
at
think he
this
already
level.
has. Like, I
yeah,
think
Yeah,
but I
when he's
think the
played
thing
against
is
these teams in the past.
with like Lake and Dad Jenkins and Thomas Williams, etc. We already know that they just did what we expected them to do. And so when you look at like your Alex Mann exceeded expectations. And so I think that's why his stock has kind of risen. As Dan said, I think if we had a fully fit back row, he probably wouldn't be in it. Um, I think, like Tommy Rogers obviously didn't play a lot, but when he did play, he was very impressive.
except for the
Um,
first game.
right. But he also got a hat trick against the All
Yeah, no,
Blacks.
no, no.
So
And he admitted he had a poor game against Argentina.
yeah, and I think he came back and kind of said like, used it as
Yeah,
a bit of
motivation.
ammunition. Yeah.
South Africa
Um,
side, I think Azarati played really well as well.
Yeah,
yes.
I think actually, even though we were hammered at scrum time, at least he tried to scrum it straight, didn't he? On Saturday, the bits I could see. Yeah, he did all right as well as our team.
but for
But he
me,
was
I
struggling.
think, sorry to cut you off there, Nick. For me, I think it's
No, it's
been
fine.
Dan Edwards.
Yeah,
Um, Dan Edwards for me has shown that he deserves the shirt again. And I know people are going to come at us now for Costello doing well on the weekend and so on and so forth for the Scarlets, which he did. But I think Dan Edwards has done enough for me to retain that jersey in the next period of international fixtures as well. So
I think you
But
said
he's my
having
choice.
two tens that are playing well, I
yeah,
think is I kind of like that. The fact that they are going to
100%.
play off each other. I think I'd be extremely shocked if Costello wasn't picked in the Six Nations if he carries on the form that he's currently on for club. And having the two of them actually having to like work for the jersey, I think is a lot better than it
Yeah,
just being handed to them.
100%, Hattie.
Yeah, there you go. And that I suppose, allows us to draw a line and,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
the international window.
Don't have to worry about this now till February.
Yeah. When we go to it,
Right,
when we go
so
to Twickenham.
Yeah.
right, as
And
I
then
said, so that is the line into that. So I think we'll go on to news desk now. If there's much on there, other
yeah, obviously some it's a little bit old news, but obviously we start off unfortunately with some bad news. That last week Mike Spiky Watkins passed away, former Cardiff and Newport player. And you guys probably too young to remember he was capped at Wales at 32 and made his debut as captain at a game we won.
Yeah.
Hooker was a great character, really good player in his time. So condolences to him and his family and friends. Osprey wing Keelan Giles signed a new deal to remain the Ospreys. Oh, the Welsh region not disclosed details of the new contract. I wonder why. The 27-year-old has 45 tries in 114 appearances for the Ospreys, and of course made his first cap, perhaps overdue, in our win in Japan last summer. Still with the Ospreys, it's been confirmed that Jack, as expected, once he's had a sort of operation in his shoulder, will be out for 5 months. So he's going to be missing a big chunk of the Ospreys season, and of course, probably the bulk of the Six Nations. And with a similar issue, Dragons and Wales hooker Elliot D is also now out of operation and is likely to be out for the same period. Dragons have announced as a result of, I guess, emergency signing of Will Austin, who had a few games for the Ospreys last year, played from Colwyn Bay, and he's joined on a short-term contract. I think he came on, didn't he, on Friday night?
Yeah.
So I think that's the news, Harley.
Can I
yeah, I
just
said
throw one in there?
Yeah.
For the rugby community, I suppose, is that obviously Penarth RFC
Yeah.
have had their clubhouse burned down overnight.
Yeah, they said.
So just to sort of
we
throw
had
our
nothing to
support
do with
behind
it.
that.
That us over the road. I promise we had nothing to do with this.
Um, but yeah, my understanding is they had long done it up, etc. And it's a historic. Am I right in saying this? Where the Barbarians first played?
Yeah, they always used
It
to
was the
start down east,
official
didn't they?
home for the it was the official
Official
home for
home
the
for the Barbars.
Barbarians for
Yeah.
quite a while. I think it's still
There you
listed
go.
as
I think it is so historic place, and I'm sure we all hope that they get themselves
Yeah.
back up and running in short time.
And old Muddy Dan, when I was in university, a lad from who because it was first class club, weren't they? Penarth
Yeah,
in those
yeah.
days. That was my claim to fame. I played with a first class player at that time.
Yeah.
we will share a link on the podcast, but just sort of came in through my WhatsApp channel. So Speakeasy Club, Cardiff, they're doing a charity raffle with 50% of the proceeds are going to go to Penarth Athletic Club. So that whole thing that includes Penarth Rugby. Yes, we'll put that in the link. Said sad news. I can't remember if we announced the sign. The only other news I can think of is I can't remember if we announced the Cardiff signing centre. Connor Smith. I think we covered it last week, didn't we?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah,
We
cool.
covered him last week.
Right, so that moves on to our bread and butter. But before we get on to URC action, if you are enjoying this pod, please do like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments into the YouTube comments, whether it's just to correct Dan and myself, or you just want to say how awesome Hattie's faces are and how expressive she is about how terrible things are in Welsh rugby, or you like Nick's calm demeanour. Feel free. If you are an audio listener, please do share a link with a friend, as it's the best way to this pod. Now, move on. So URC back in action for one round only. I'm not going to do singing and dancing because I haven't got my heels up here, Barry, with me. So we start off on Friday night. So Dragons hosted Leinster in a game that was definitely not controversial in any way, shape, or form. Hey, Dan?
Oh, well, unfortunately, the result went, according to script over recent years, didn't it? Where we effed and we puffed and came away with absolutely nothing. However, I'm sure you'll all agree that the result flattered Leinster a little bit. I would say, in fairness, the boys stuck the shift in, and we end up losing 24-10. And there was one of those fixtures where they scored early on in the first couple of minutes. I actually went down and sat in the Campbelltown with my boy and everyone else from Blackwood under 11s, took the kids down. And it was a good evening, good atmosphere again. The terrace was in good voice, absolutely no beer was drunk whatsoever.
We have lost Dan slightly. So we'll just sort of go on. So the three non-dragons people will talk about this. So I'm gonna just cover the controversial incident. I'm sure Dan will come in, but so that tackle on Levi Douglas. Well, I'm gonna tackle. So obviously the big focus was on Scott Penny's tucked arm going in, and they said he was making a legal tackle. I disagree, but what they also failed is in that same frame, you can see that the reason why Levi Douglas had dropped is because 11 had gone for a no arms tackle into his knees. And I can't remember who was the inside man, but he was also going for a short.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've been shouted out on the URC rewinds as well, but it was generally the most Leinster decision I've ever seen. Where just
You
everything, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Nothing was dodgy at all. In one of the weirdest games I've ever witnessed. And by weirdest game I've ever witnessed, I mean the Dragons weren't completely losing to Leinster, and that was weird. They were actually playing very well against
I
Leinster.
genuinely think it was 2 points gone begging for that because I do honestly think the Dragons should have got 2 points out of that. I genuinely think they were good for the draw. I thought they weren't completely better than Leinster, but there were large parts of the game where they were.
It was just a very peculiar game.
Can I just be the devil's
Enjoyable.
advocate? I
Yeah.
enjoyed the game as well. But, Mr. Buttress is quite vocal on his tweets on X. But just as a little bit of a challenge to him, it's not just the case the same old Dragons. When are they going to win? They're still now the only team after the weekend, after Scarlet's glorious victory in the URC with no wins. So, yeah, we could talk a good game, but when are we going to see the Dragons actually get a result?
And just by magic, I'm back.
Yeah.
Apologies.
So Dan,
Any timer.
we just had a brief chat about the non-penalty with Scott Penny and how and Nick. I don't know if you just heard Nick was asking when the next win's going to come, trying to be Mr. Bad Guy.
Yeah, that's a good question. Who knows? Going back to what I was saying before I cut out there. For me, like the fans are still there. They're in good voice week in, week out. There's a good
Sure.
atmosphere down there again.
Yeah.
And we were leading 7-5 at half time. Let's not forget, the Dragons again riddled by injuries and Wales call at the moment. Leading 7-5. I feared the worst when they scored early doors. However, we come back into the big Achilles heel for me is still our attack. I think it's a little bit shapeless, and our set piece was poor on the weekend. Scrum got took apart, and we lost vital lineouts. Other than that, there was some good showing for Kenzie Martin, Thomas Young, top tackler, and most turnovers in the game as well. Rob Hunt showed up well, second most tackles I think in the game, and also did all right on his side of the scrum. It was young Dylan Keller Griffiths that got outed really on the loose head. In terms of the decision, I suppose, because we hung in the battle, didn't we? In terms of the decision, for me, is at least a penalty, probably a yellow card, which would have kept us down in that sort of area, attacking their line at the 5 meter channel on the 5 meter line, man down. As I think they say, we couldn't have rolled them over from there and snuck a draw, which would have been our third draw of the season. Unfortunately, it went back to the knock on, and we go on and they go up the other field through Snyman and score. And that was the take of the tape. Unfortunately, being able to bring on Rabah Slimani and they had a raft of internationals on show anyway, but being able to bring Slimani on and Snyman changed the game on the second row. His ability to offload out with a tackle, his physicality just changed the game. And what happened as well, if you notice, they bring Slimani on at tight end, they scrummage Snyman behind him, doesn't depower the scrum whatsoever. And yeah, I did feel we were hard done by. I don't like blaming the referee, but I think they bottled that so late on in the game. I think it was like sort of 76, 77 minutes. And he definitely bottled that. And ultimately we come away with nothing. But it was a hard fought loss. When's the next victory coming, Nick? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. I think if we were fully loaded, and without the injuries that we have, I think we would stand a chance in Europe over the next couple of fixtures because I think Perpignan are struggling. They're going to prioritise the top 14. So who knows? Maybe we got to wait until Newcastle again.
I wasn't obviously. I was generally being the devil's advocate. You might have missed that, but obviously I'm aware, that Dave Just Eats is quite vocal and is quite
Yeah,
vocal about the lack of physicality in the Welsh team. I did think it was slightly ironic, and he was right. This was after the New Zealand game, I think it was. But as he watched his own team recently,
yeah, no, it's right. I suppose the difference would be this year the Dragons are going down battling and have drawn a couple of fixtures which haven't been losses. Whereas, Wales in recent fixtures have been absolutely battered in reality,
yeah,
apart from the Japan fixtures. But no, I suppose we can't throw stones if you live in a glass house. But I genuinely do think that if we were able to go fully loaded now, having Inisi back,
yeah.
Payet back in the centre, Elliot D back, Dylan Lewis, people like this, then we can start picking up. So I feel like we're on the cusp. It's almost if they don't know how to win. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like you felt that when that drop goal wasn't taken a few weeks ago. Like it's
Yeah,
just like there's no, and I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. Like there seems to be like a management problem between 9 and 10, and like who's making decisions. And it's just like it does almost feel like they think a draw is enough, and instead of pushing to get that win, because they're almost surprised that they're getting a draw. If that makes any sense, like oh, we're not losing. They've just forgotten.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And
It's hard to get out of that.
it's hard to get. It is. Yeah, it is. So, and if you want to more in depth, look at it, then the boys on the Dragons Lay have had a good rip apart of it,
Yeah.
of the fixture. So go and have a listen to those guys. But on the whole, it was another plucky loser, really, I suppose, this season, rather than being deadbeat losers with plucky
Yeah,
losers now.
yeah. It's an improvement, isn't it?
It's an improvement, yeah.
Right, so we move ever so slightly west, which actually quite how the fixtures have worked out this year. We're going to be shifting westward each time. Cardiff continue their winning ways. So I think it's the first time we've won 4 games in a row in the league for like 8 years or something like that. First time to win 4 games in a row in all competitions in like 4 or 5. So good for us. It's pretty much as strong a team as Zebra can put out. I thought we handled it quite well despite being depleted. Dav Hughes took his hat tricks hanging off the back of the 7 other men really well. And then Newport's proudest son, Tane Basham, getting the bonus point right towards the end. It was a weird one where I feel like we've never really pulled away, but at the same time, I never felt we were in a position where we'd lose that game. So, we were in control, but not necessarily steaming ahead, which is fine. We had Mason Grady come back, which was good. He looked decent. He was powering through. He seemed to be using his weight a little bit more than he did before his injury. Pack went well. Ben Donald going off a bit early was a bit of a worry. Yeah, Reece Barrett. I thought Reece Barrett had another good outing. That young props chugging along nicely. Having Sebastian and Sam Wainwright, 2 signings I wasn't particularly enamored with at the start of the season. Uh, Proven their value. I think they've played incredibly well, actually, especially Sam Wainwright whenever he gets his chance. It's not a huge amount to say. I just have to say, Nick, getting a bonus point win against Zebra isn't for everyone.
No, I look. I didn't predict Cardiff in as well as I do, so I have to concede Cardiff have definitely upset my predictions at the start of the season. Uh, yeah, to go to Zebra and get a bonus point, and as you say, Harley, never really looking like losing the game, has to be applauded, and good luck to them. The challenge will be now for Cardiff is, as any team, is keeping it going. particularly across the Christmas derbies. But if they do, they're in a very strong position for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest worry for those derbies, as ever, is New Year's Day. I
We'll,
always
we'll
hate the
we'll
New
give
Year's
you a
Day
warm
game.
welcome. We'll give you a warm welcome to the brewery. Don't worry.
All 20 of you.
No, there'll be a few there, mate.
To be fair, there's one thing they do always turn out at the brewery field. Unless, as I said, there's not a huge amount for this. Carl should be recording Tuesday night, so should be in your feeds on Wednesday if you're interested a bit more in depth. One good thing is we found a replacement. Should Crew ever stop doing the victory song, because Alan Lawrence was belting it out like a bit like the best of them.
Oh
And
yes, I saw that.
just to say, there are certain players for every club who probably, if they're absolutely objective and honest, aren't quite good enough for international rugby, but are absolute standouts and stalwarts for URC. And I think Alan Lawrence is in that group. We've got some as well in the Ospreys. I'm not, that's not, but he is a tremendous player for Cardiff.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Absolutely
agree with
massive.
that. And what I'd also say as well is, Cardiff are holding the Welsh end up a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is good. Let's local rivalries aside, it's good to see,
Yeah.
because we need
Yeah.
some positivity. Because at the minute,
Yeah.
three of the bottom four are the rest of us. Long may the form continue, really, I suppose, because we need some positivity. At the moment, they've made the most of I don't want to say favourable start, but fixtures that they should have won, they've gone out and won. So good on them.
Good on him.
Everyone's saying favourable start. I actually think this is probably the most balanced start we've had in quite a while. I'd say we've definitely had more favourable starts last season as well, where we just didn't capitalise.
Yep.
Whereas I feel now we're actually, we are
Maybe,
winning games we should win, and even some of the games where we probably wouldn't be expected to. Like Zebra at home have been quite a difficult opposition, and a lot of people probably at the start of the season have been happy with a couple of points. And to get two from Munster again, which is still the performance I'm proudest of.
Mhm.
So I said if we can carry it through to Europe and this is going to be interesting now, because although it's the URC stops this week, we've still it's still the first of 10 uninterrupted rounds of rugby, and it'll be how we manage that squad, which we know is on a precipice, as some of the other sides are showing. It's just maintaining that through. We already had to get an emergency signing of a hooker. Connor Schmidt coming in the centre, although I feel like that was a signing that we were in the progress of making anyway, with Brayley going.
Surely, due to your league position, you got to rotate for Europe. Surely,
Yeah.
because you stand a hell of a chance of making the playoffs, maybe even a home playoff. This is the level that we. Whereas for the Dragons, for example, you need a win for the feel good factor. If Dragons can beat Perpignan on the weekend, then we've drawn a couple of games, beaten Perpignan, it's all an improvement. It's maybe the same for the other guys as well. Whereas for Cardiff now, you're in a position where you can pick and choose a bit more.
With the Cardiff chat, we've been talking. Our private back channel, we've sort of been talking about sort of the rotated side, because we've had to have a sort of semi-rotated side for Zebra. We're thinking about the best plan is, as much as possible, get those guys to play Stad, slowly reintegrate the Wales internationals for Ulster home and the derbies. And the idea is then by the time we get to Racing home, hopefully we've done enough to qualify for the next round, and then maybe you're looking at the extra game for a rotation, which would be a shame for me because I want to see some of my favourite players. So I will be going to that one. But you do have to manage it, and it'll be interesting because this will be Cornel van Zyl's first proper season in the head job, as far as I'm aware. I think he's only really ever been forwards coach otherwise. So how he manages this will be interesting, because I think I can definitely see a change in particularly how he uses subs compared to Jockey in his first two seasons. So that'll be good. Anyway, I think that's enough Cardiff chat.
Can
Again,
I just,
if you want to hear more.
Can I just make a shout out for the Emmanuel brothers, Charlie?
Yeah. Yes, the first pair of brothers to play for Cardiff since I think 2015, which was Tom and Lloyd Williams.
Yeah,
If you were interested, Nick.
No, and also I think Steph Emmanuel has a big future. I'm sure we aren't. I think he really
Probably didn't
has.
have his best game, but you can see the talent.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a
And
position
again,
where if somebody could really step forward as a 12, a ball playing 12 who's all court, who can chuck it up as well. There's definitely a calling for Wales in that sort of role, and there are few.
and I thought Yohan scrimmaged quite well as well. I just
Yeah.
like to say that he didn't have too many opportunities for that by that time, but I thought he did play. Anyway, as I said, that was the last of the Cardiff chat for now. We move all the way up to Edinburgh, where Nick, you were on the ground reporter for this one as somewhat.
On
Ospreys
holiday
very
again.
unlucky not to get results
Thank you,
against
thank you.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, I think overall it was a performance we're proud of against a strong Edinburgh team. And Edinburgh are a funny team, aren't they? They're very good at home and very poor on the road. And just to say as well, there was been a little bit of chat about we had a lot of players missing, and there was a list I think put out about 23 players missing, which included academy players. That was never put out by the Ospreys. That was a Welsh rugby journalist who put that out. So I'd just like to kill that discussion quite quickly. The only thing, obviously, I would comment on, and the only thing the Ospreys would comment on, we had a decent front five missing, and a lot of those were travelling reserves for Wales. When you look at the stats, I think it was a really good all-round performance. Defence was excellent. Can Jones, a young loosehead, came on and did really well. Started at loosehead. Back row, again, Gwilym Evans in his first start was excellent. Lloyd Lewis was absolutely tremendous, tenacious, top tackler, I think, and playing out of position. Ryan Smith and Ross Moriarty brought leadership. It was nice to see Ryan Smith playing. I think talking about good quality, this level player, I think Hugh Sutton's developing into that type of forward. Our partnership went well. Kasende, Kokasinga, Boshoff, and Nagy were great. And I know we've talked about this before, but have a fullback who can win the aerial battle does make a bit of difference to a team. But it does help when you're 6 foot plus. Maybe there's a little lesson for Wales there. Luke Davis' try was absolutely sensational. Great build-up and a wonderful pass from Everardi Boshoff. The other try is very good too. Not bad for a team who were often criticised a year or two ago by only being able to score off driving balls and penalties. So you can see our games developed. We lost a couple of lineouts, a couple of silly penalties. We hit the post twice, I think, on kicks. There was a lucky ricochet for Edinburgh's final try. So that was this distance we were away from a famous win. I think what made the difference, though, is they were able to bring on 4 Scottish internationals off the bench and the current Bok's first choice loosehead. And that just took the game away from the Ospreys. So, yeah, we carried on battle into the final whistle and a well-deserved losing bonus point. So, yeah, it's still a loss, and that's disappointing. But looking forward, I'm happy to take a question on this statement I'm going to make now. With our returnees from the international game, injured players going to be in the mix very soon. I would argue, and I would put money on it, we're not going to finish bottom 6 where we are now.
Oh, I like it.
Like the ambition, I don't agree because you're gonna have 2 very tough losses to Cardiff coming up.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, that will not happen. I was going to say because I honestly thought with Edinburgh's current home form, having their internationals integrated, that not being so far off full strength, I honestly thought this was going to be a really horrid night for Ospreys.
I did have them.
And frankly, it wasn't. I think some of that is just that Edinburgh are just clearly a poorly coached side. I think we can't get away from that. But even still, Ospreys played well, and I'm one of those people, Nick, who, as you know, moaned about the lack of attacking style and flair from the Ospreys. But that first try was an absolute worldie. It was just brilliant. I loved it. But yeah, you can't complain. They're down to all right. I know Sam Parry's a stalwart, and there are many situations you would argue you'd put him ahead of Lake to start for some games. Lake may be a better player, but he's better off the bench. And Sam Parry is just very good at what he does as a technical hooker, particularly at URC level.
Yeah.
But you've obviously, losing Gareth Thomas, where this season your scrum hasn't really fired unless he's been part of it. You still have Tom Boter, that's great, but again, but you are running that. You can see you were going down the depth charts in all the positions. Like having Harry Dees would have probably
Yeah.
been quite a help for you guys, so you wouldn't have to put a hooker on the flank. But everyone played really well. Your bench came on.
Yeah.
It's no bomb squad, but it kept the tempo up, and I think Edinburgh really struggled how to deal with you. A lot was being said on the comms about how great Dan Lancaster was going to. No, sorry, that was with the Glasgow game, wasn't it? Dan Lancaster. But there's a lot being said about the Scotland players and their internationals. I thought both had Schumann on toast.
Yeah.
Frankly, at scrum time, I just thought I didn't think the other. I don't think Boneventer did much after as well. It was genuine. I was actually quite, as much as I want to rip into shit in the Ospreys and I want them to lose every time they play Cardiff, I do want them to do well,
Yeah. Well,
just not
Welsh
as well
fans
as
are,
us.
no, exactly. But
I
that's
thought they're
fair enough.
brilliant. I genuinely, it's probably one of the most, weirdly, it's probably the most find a way booth performance without actually finding the way.
I did see a comment on YouTube saying that for every single Ospreys try, you can see Van der Merwe in the background attempting not to do a tackle.
Yeah.
And so I went back and rewatched it, and you can see Van der Merwe just dip out of a tackle every time. But yeah, I think it
The
was
reason he's
Edinburgh's.
being benched for Scotland is all
Yeah,
I'm going to say.
I just Edinburgh. Yeah, it was just poorly coached from them.
That's
And
not the Ospreys' fault, is it?
No,
no, it's not.
No.
100%.
But I think, Harley's right. I think if the Ospreys weren't as depleted as they were from internationals in their front five, I think maybe could have pushed on a little bit more and made that
No, I
difference.
I think you would have got a 5-pointer out there, like
Yeah.
quite easy the way how much less than 7 the parts they were playing. That
Mhm.
Edinburgh were lucky they got you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think they played you sort of in that game just before the proper festive derbies. I don't think I think they would have really struggled. Dan, anything you want to add on this game?
No, I agree with all of that. I think everyone in Wales have been a victim of the national team playing on Saturday, haven't they? There's no doubt about that. Well, apart from Cardiff, who won and the Scarlets, but I think the Ospreys more so than anybody else, and I think I agree with Nick as well. I think they'll win more than they lose this year, especially if they, like we said at the start of the season, it's about keeping as many people on the field fit as possible. You only got to look at the Dragons' depleted squad already. If you can keep people fit and healthy, I think everyone stands a chance. And for me, what this round shows is that actually we're not that far away.
No,
A little bit more
no,
fun.
that's true.
We're not that.
Yeah.
Everyone's not that far away.
No.
Just a little bit more. Give us a little bit more.
Good point.
Right, so we move on to as far west as we get with Scarlets. Frankly, embarrassing Glasgow Warriors 23-0.
What a
I mean,
beautiful game.
it was certainly a game of rugby. I wouldn't go as far as beautiful, but do you know what? I think it was exactly the game Scarlets needed.
It
Yeah.
was.
Generally.
I,
And it does show that if Scarlets actually bothered with pre-season, they might actually be a true force to be reckoned with.
what a game. I mean, winning against the Scottish team isn't for everybody. Sorry to say, Nick. Um, but I mean, I am a bit surprised, like how the scoreline ended because, like,
Mm.
going into it, I was like, oh, I think we can do it. Depending on the Glasgow team, I think we can do it. Um, and then the team sheets came out, and I was like, Glasgow, it's not a full strength side, but they still had some first choice players. They still had some strong players.
Yeah.
They still had internationals.
Yeah.
Um, I think on the chances of it, I would have said that they were the stronger team going into it. Um, and they just didn't click. Like they just kind of fell apart, which is really weird against us. And even though we had literal children in our back line and on the bench, we just carried on going. I would have loved to have seen us get a bonus point win, but I'll take 23-0. that felt pretty great.
You fell for that.
Um, but yeah, it was just a really good game. I was really, really thankful to get to see Lassie and Ball play together and just really push on. I think our scrum was excellent. Um, and having that heft in the second row really helped. I was really, really impressed with Fletcher Anderson in his
Mm.
sort of first proper outing for the Scarlets. I think he was incredible and he's what we've needed since we kind of lost some big ball carriers last year. And it felt like we were playing more like the Scarlets were at the back end of last year when we were on that really, really good run. Um, so yeah, it was impressive. I was also really, really happy to see Costello and James kind of have a bit of a blinder as well, and kind of put their hands up and say like, "Hey, we've, one of us was off form and the other one was out with injury, but here we are." I think Eddie Jones in particular has been in the. I don't know if you guys watched the Quins game
Yeah,
that we played,
yeah.
and then this game at the weekend. I think he's been great, and I think his form is incredible. Especially just coming back off injury. I think to be playing that well is pretty great. Um, Obviously, we'll probably go into this a bit more. I'm slightly worried. Obviously, we're playing Bristol next week, but I am really thankful and great that we finally won a game. We are still sitting at the bottom though, because we didn't get the bonus points, so we are still below the Dragons. But a win is a win, and I'll take
Yeah.
it. I don't know what you guys thought.
I thought it was a top performance, if I'm honest. And then when I looked at the team sheet, then Matthias, Elias, Archer Holtz, I haven't been that impressed with, but you started with him. Then you were able to bring on Henry Thomas and Marnus van
Mm.
der Merwe, Springbok international, and a Wales and England international. Lowsey and Ball in the second row. McLeod being back. Fletcher Anderson, great signing. 13
Mm.
carries, 14 tackles in, well, how long was he on the field for? 69 minutes. Brilliant. Gareth Davis, clearly retired too early for me.
Mm.
Would make a lovely backup now to
Mm.
Thomas Williams, Costello. It's a team full of quality, and I suppose this goes back to the point they're just making. If we keep everybody fit, keep everybody healthy, then everybody stands half a chance. So I thought it was real positive performance, good strides. The big thing for me was nil in them as well.
Yeah.
Which was, yeah, okay, you'd have took a bonus point. Of course, you would have put nil in them. Is fantastic. And even though we only got a couple of minutes at the end, it was great to see Carl and Leggett Jones get on the field, because albeit he's only 17, 18 years of age,
I think he turned 18 last week.
turned 18 last week and ought to play senior rugby.
Yeah.
He's got a big, real high ceiling, big future in front of him. And I think bringing Harvey Tuxham back in as well is a good move.
Did get a yellow
He did get a yellow, he did, but I
after
think
being offside like 4 times in space of about three
To be
minutes.
fair, Peel did
he
say
brings that
he did
abrasive
show him a
edge,
load
though,
of
doesn't
Tame Plumtree footage. It said, "Be like that."
he? Yeah.
He took the wrong lessons.
Right, I genuinely think he just brings that like another abrasive edge
Mm.
to your pack. So again, good. It was A+ performance for me.
I think
Good on him.
we sort of said at the beginning of the season when Fafita went that matches are invariably won up front,
Mm,
and once the Scarlets have been able to put out a decent pack, uh, it's shown.
Yeah.
They've got the backs to
yeah,
do it.
I think as well, like, although you kind of saw in this game that our backline factory is definitely up and running and they're pumping through, I think, when we have our first choice back from international duty,
Mm.
along with that pack that played on Saturday, I think it can be a bit of a dangerous team moving forward. And also, if you've seen the little spider graph thing on Rugby Pass, the defence for the Scarlets is like Dan's absolute dream,
yeah,
apart
it was
from
good.
the missed tackles bit. If you ignore that, it's exactly what Dan wants to see.
Dan, can I just ask a question which is not related? Well, it is related a bit to the Ospreys, but other teams do as well. What would be the thinking behind a team, an Ospreys for instance, if you want to win, and Wales to a certain extent want to win 100% of your own lineup ball, you play against the Ospreys. We don't compete. We did it on Saturday. And I can sort of get that in your own half. But why wouldn't you just throw somebody up in the opposition half to try and disrupt their ball? What's the thinking defensively around that?
I don't know is the answer because I agree with you. I'd be looking to get someone off the floor to compete as well. So I don't know why. The one reason why would be it allows you to get connected quicker in defence because you haven't got people in the air. And then, for example, if they hit midfield and come back the other way, if you've got stragglers from lifting pods, etc., then you've got high numbers potentially running at low numbers. So it allows you to get organised a little bit quicker. But I'm with you. Like, why not challenge the lineup a bit more?
It's one thing I noticed particularly because that's one stat that sort of come up is the opposition against Wales during the autumn didn't lose a single line out.
No,
because it was just no. And maybe for the Wales thing, they just haven't worked on a defensive line out system yet. Although I feel like throwing something up, I feel like they could do. But watching that South Africa game, that was a very they were getting away with quite a nice angle on the throw because they didn't have to throw it straight because Wales weren't competing. And I think sometimes even just to keep the team honest, keep the hooker honest.
Good point.
The other issue around it as well is if you're playing against someone like the Springboks, for example, if you don't compete anywhere on the field, you're already set to defend them all. Because once they do start more, you then risk, especially if you've got people in the air and they get a ball moving, you then risk penalties.
Yeah.
So if, for example, it's a line out just inside day 22, if you set and defend that initial maul, for example, they're going to box the ball back to you, they're going to kick it back to you, hopefully to some sort of territory gain. Whereas if you let them get going and you can see the penalty, then all of a sudden they're marching you down the field for very little exertion. So it's probably a risk versus reward thing. But and why not compete a little bit more? At the very least, you can just mirror their line out and try and get up in front of the man and test the hooker. But we've decided not to do it.
I'd also say I was just gonna say sometimes if you don't have a confident line out caller, I think that they don't want to take those risks, and concede penalties, etc. And I think sometimes when you look at especially international teams that maybe don't compete as much, they are teams generally that have weak line out callers. I think a really good example is Ireland a couple of years ago, who, when Peter O'Mahony wasn't playing, their line out kind of sank, and especially their defensive line out. But Peter O'Mahony came back and really, really led that forward. So if you don't have a confident or it is different calling a defensive line out in comparison to an attacking one.
And most teams now as well drop. Sorry, Harley. Most teams drop numbers now as well. So you go to like go to a 5-man line out and have a +1 in at the scrum half, for example. But then it's quite easy to put a mirror defence on because if they drop to a 5-man, for example, it'll be 2 props bookending that generally, and then 3 lifting options in the middle, and it's just a case of being able to follow around. But if you think as well from a defence perspective, where do teams like to win attacking ball from is to tailor the line out, and where are you more susceptible from an attack? It's that seam in between the line out and the defensive line. There's a massive gap there, especially from a line out, and it's really difficult to get that defensive line connected. If you don't fill that seam, it's a real weakness. So you may as well let them have it at the back and fill that seam, and you'd have an anchor and a vacuum in there. So you'd anchor it with the back forward, and then the back forward at the tail on the 15, he would turn in, and then he'd have like the +1 or the 9. Normally a forward nowadays, you'd have like the hooker who might be the +1 just to follow in and get connected with that back line as they rush up, and you don't leave that seam exposed because it's an absolute killer for you if you get that's yards after yards after yards. Because if you defensive line back 10 meters or whatever it is, it's real difficult to get that connected. And if you stick a lifting pod up at the back, you've got no way of getting connected. You've got to be real confident of stealing that ball. Otherwise, you're in shit street if they come down that scene.
Thanks.
It's just interesting. I had a quick nose on the URC stat site. So you've got, in terms of line-out steals, you've got Edinburgh and the Sharks on 12 each at the top. Then you're looking at Leinster with 10, Stormers on 9, Connacht on 8, and then you've got Dragons, Cardiff, Benetton. I think one of the person on 7, and everyone else is on like 5 or fewer. I think Ospreys are only stolen 3, Zebra haven't stolen any. So I don't know if it's maybe necessarily just a thing that in Wales we don't have too many, we don't really have too many defensive line-out stealers, people who can just get up and steal ball.
I think it's more than that, Harley. I think it's certainly for the Ospreys, it's a definite strategy. We got some decent line of forwards. It's a decision that's been made by the coaching team that we don't compete.
Yeah, you let them have it and defend. Like I said, it's a risk versus reward thing, isn't it? So if you're trying to mirror a 5-man line-out, they know the calls and you don't. Therefore, they can start covering the ground quicker than you can. And in theory, they should be, it's a professional rugby team now. You should be winning your own line-out ball. Yeah. So if you go, right, let them have it, and we'll just make sure we're connected in defence.
Yeah.
Simple as that. We can move our pieces, our D-line to the places we want it quicker than if we were in the air.
Thank you.
I think like that we've gone massive wild tangents. I'm going to read us back to certain current rugby. So we have Europe kicking off because why keep anything in consistency so that people get behind any momentum? So we've got 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. Just because it is Champions Cup, I'm going to start with Scarlets, even though it's a later game. So Scarlets are hosting Bristol at 8 o'clock. Now, good news, Hattie. Bristol absolutely annihilated Northampton Saints last week. Now, a lot of people are going to be listening and saying, hang on, well, if they're annihilating the former Premiership champions, why is that good news? The great news is because I'm a Bristol Bears fan, so I know that they are going to have an absolute omni-shambles this week because they cannot do 2 good performances like that in a row. It's just something you have to accept with being a Bears fan, whether it's the men or the women, which is why I'm really looking forward to the game I'm actually going to watch this week, but we'll get onto that later.
Yeah, do you know what? It's one of those. It's really difficult because on the one hand, Bristol are absolutely hammered with injuries, men and women at the minute. Me and Harley offline were talking about when Dave Ward left the women's team, he must have taken the keys to the physio room with him. And so none of them are able to rehab because it's just taking so long. And I was like, oh, we're playing against like a weakened Bristol Psychers, blah, blah, blah. And then this game at the weekend happened. And bearing in mind, Northampton, I think they'd had a draw, but they hadn't actually lost a single Prem game up until this point, and they just got absolutely hammered. So I am a bit nervous. I won't lie to you. I was nervous before, and I'm a bit more nervous now, even if Harley is saying that Bristol can't string 2 together.
It's backed by science. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, not only that, but that they've built up the fact that Louis Rees-Zammit is coming to town so much that it'd be weird if they didn't play him. And
it's like peppering with highballs.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to, when you think I could not watch this and just do something else and just.
Oh, it'd be a good game. It'd be a really good game. 8 o'clock on a Saturday night in Parc y Scarlets, where this is the type of fixtures that the people want. They're still down the road. This is going to be a really good game.
Yeah, but think about the poor supporters who've got to make it all the way back to Pontcanno, Nick. Come on.
I think it could be a good fixture.
I think there's going to be a lot of exciting tries, but I think it's going to be fundamentally unserious rugby.
I'll be disappointed if either team score less than 30.
Yeah, I think it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either Scarlets are going to get completely blown out by a Bristol team on fire, or Scarlets are going to nick it by a few. I don't think there's going to be any middle ground. Bristol are going to blow them out, or win by 20, or Scarlets are going to nick it.
I
I
think
know
you're just
Clark.
I just think you're trying to psych me out to my prediction. So I'm looking at my prediction now, thinking, oh,
Oh, do we
damn
want to? I hadn't set up prediction league for Europe as we did last year. If you want to do it, we can. We can.
it. I'm only joking.
No.
Um, yeah. Anything anyone else wants to say? Hattie, do you want to give a? We'll just do individual predictions for our own games for this one. So, do you want to give one? It doesn't even have to be a score, just a general vibe. We'll do for Europe.
Do you know what? It could either end up being like 67-63, or it could end up being 63-4, well, not even 4,
I, I
63-5.
I mean, it feels like the most Scarlet thing possible to somehow have a try that was just someone just went so bad they deducted a point.
Point, yeah.
Like, I don't see how it can go any other way. Like, I feel like it's either going to be fundamentally unserious and both teams score really high and it ends up coming down to something silly, um, or Bristol are going to absolutely annihilate us. Um, so yeah. Although Sally
Let's
brought
just
his
hope
kicking boots
rugby's
the
the
other
winner.
day.
Rugby's going to be the winner. Rugby will be the
Yeah,
Yeah, if you
would
like
do.
backs tries, this is the game for you, I think.
winner. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, you've got some forwards who like balling a bit as well. So let's not exclude the heavy boys.
It's true.
So moving on, Cardiff are going away to Stade. So a lovely little Paris away trip. I should say for the Scarlets game that will be on Premier Sports and on S4C if you don't want to do the Premier Sports commentary, which I fully get, and I do not blame you. And it will probably be more of a production on S4C, which seems to be the way Premier Sports do that sort of thing. And in Cardiff are hosting Stade. Stade are currently fourth in the top 14, but we're second in the URC. So, obviously we are going to absolutely no, which that's not the one. As I discussed earlier, I think general thinking is we're probably going to send us slightly, we're going to wait a week before bringing it back our Wales internationals. Could be an interesting game. Are Stade going to be particularly bothered about the this kit about this game? Possibly not. I mean, if they're chasing top four, I can see them wanting to focus more on that. This might be it, but it's a top 14 side at home. They do tend to care about the home game, just purely because that's what their fans want. I think the biggest interest is going to be for this game is who's going to wear the pink kit.
Speaking of pink kit, I was very upset because before the pod, I was like, "Oh, what top should I wear?" And I, at the last week, bought two new Stab tops that are hot pink, and I was then like, "I can't wear it because Cardiff are playing them this week, and that would be
I
rude."
I don't consider that beautiful shithousery. I would have thought you were more worried it would clash with your background.
That's true. But it's a lovely one. It's got well, there's two. One's like pink, with tiny little Eiffel Towers on, and the other one is hot pink with a big Eiffel Tower on. And obviously they both say Capri Sun.
Yeah.
Um, so
Which definitely sort of shows mine and Hattie's generation that we get excited about Caprison.
pink with Capri Sun, I need it, especially when it was in the reduced section.
I keep getting told by my wife I can't pull off pink, so I'm not allowed it. Or the pink Cardiff jerseys. I might get one anyway. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any actual rugby points they want to make about this game, but
I agree. It's going to depend on. I think all the fixtures are going to depend on whether the regions rotate or not.
And
Quite frankly,
how seriously the French team's
and
taken.
seriously, yeah. And I agree. If you're playing a French team at home, as the Dragons and Cardiff are, you're likely to come up against a more formidable opposition than it would be if they were travelling away. And it's going to wholly depend on squad rotation. And if they're going to rotate, then I can't see Cardiff winning or the Dragons winning.
yeah,
Certainly the Dragons. Certainly the Dragons. Cardiff may stand more of a chance.
Especially in an opening round as well.
yeah. Again, this is when you really don't want a French team away in this first round. A French team at home, well, a French team away, round 4, great.
Yeah.
As long as they're not in the game. So Cardiff game will be on Premier Sports, and I believe this actually no, this one on. No, this This might be on S4C as well. I can't remember. I've got to double check the things. I'll quickly go through that whilst we're all talking. But moving on to Sunday's fixtures, so we kick off with Dragons going away to Perpignan, the hapless Perpignan, I think we can call them, rooted to the bottom of the top 14, 6 points behind Montauban, who came up from the Pro League last season, and from what our lovely colleague Hugh says on the top 14 digest, Montauban are playing like a Pro League side in the top 14, and are still have one win and more points than Perpignan. This, probably all the signs of a team that's going to be more focused on staying up than in Europe. What do you think, Dan?
Well, somebody's O has got to go, I suppose, and that's not the unbeaten record. That's someone's going to have a stroke in the win column, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
Draws are also possible.
a draw, yeah. Well, the way the Dragons are going, maybe. Yeah. Again, for me, it's going to depend on last year. Philo rotated a lot in Europe, obviously to try and focus on the league. I think if we rotate, we don't stand much of a chance if we bring in squad boys. On the other hand, if we decide that we can target this one and go fully loaded, then I do think we stand a chance, even though it is out in France. If you're Perpignan, your fight will be alike now. So does a win over the Dragons matter so much, even though it's at home? I would say not. But the Stade Général is a tough old place to go, intimidating place. It'll be absolutely packed to the rafters over there on Sunday, I would have thought, even for the lowly Dragons visiting. So very much like my Scarlet prediction, I think that this is going to go one or two ways. If we go over there as loaded as we can be, with a couple of injury returners, I don't know who they are going to be because we've not got a magical medical team. But if we can go over there fully loaded, we stand a chance, and we could nick it in a tight game. If we go over there rotated, playing some of the senior academy boys, etc., I think we get battered. No in between.
I think this is a good opportunity for the Dragons to learn how to win. It's a bit of a bin juice classic or bin juice cup, unfortunately, with a side that hasn't won a game and another side that hasn't won a game this season.
I agree. I think it is an opportunity to go and pick up a win, but we can't go rotated. We can't.
But I also think it's with Perpignan. It'd be really, really not stupid, but it'd be unwise for them to put any real effort into Europe, because if they don't put any real effort into their own league, they're in the Pro D2 next season. Whereas with Dragons, you're kind of safe from that. And picking up a win, I think, for you guys is more important than saving yourselves for the URC. I actually think you can build more off a win than sending academy boys out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So fingers crossed.
Anything you want to add, Nick?
No, I totally agree with everything's been said.
Right, so all that's been said on that one is that game will only be available on EPCR TV. So you will have, if you want the pleasure of this game, you will have to dip your hands into the pocket. I did double check. Cardiff will be on S4C.
Hang on now, they put that absolutely barnstorming fixture on. You tell me it's not on Sky Sports 1 and avid prime time setting on.
No, it's more like Sunday fight night where the top billions are under a paywall, Dan.
This would be, in footballing terms, this would be last on match of the day, wouldn't it?
Right, and the last fixture in the URC is Ospreys hosting Connacht Rugby. I'm sorry, this is the Challenge Cup. Sorry, I was confused by the teams and us playing teams in our own league again. So Ospreys playing Connacht. This game will be on Premier Sports.
Okay.
I'll be quite interested to know. What your thoughts on this one, Nick, because it is probably a preview for a game later on in the season.
Yeah, well, we've had some really cracking games against them the last couple of matches. including I think it was 40 odd win for us against 42, something like that. I can't remember what it was now, but it was a very close game last year in the URC, and I think it was a very high scoring game where we lost the year before in Connacht, in Galway. They had a really impressive win, didn't they, against the Sharks? I know Sharks are a bit of a funny team as well, but they've started to make some progress, I guess, under Lancaster there. So yeah, it could be another good game. I would expect us to put out a decent 23 this week, given where we are. And I think we need to win some games now to get some momentum. So yeah, I'm hopeful we'll come away with a win. Should be a good game, and I'd be more than happy if that's the outcome. Now we're talking about next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I said I've got them.
It's just two URC teams playing each other, not in the
Yeah.
URC.
Yeah, I know.
It
Not
just
great,
Yeah,
is
it
it?
becomes a bit.
I said enjoy playing them 3 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
great, is it?
Yeah,
No, it's not.
yes.
I agree. Could be someone else, couldn't it?
Mm.
There you go. It is what it is.
It is what it is, isn't it?
Yep, and I was going to try and pick out some other fixtures from the others, but I'll be frankly honest. I think the one I'm most excited to is genuinely Scarlet's Bristol, because I'll be honest, a lot of the rest of them are quite lackluster. We've got a couple more URC into URC clashes because of the stupid way the qualification works in this tournament. I think that's another pod how stupid the European competition is.
Yeah.
The one game I am going to highlight is the game I'm actually going to physically attend, which is Chiefs Women versus Bristol Bears Women. I get to see Jazz Joyce Butchers in the flesh, hopefully, depending on what team's announced. Plus,
what I was going to say, you might even see baby Ralphie, who made his debut for Bristol Bears at the weekend. He was on the pitch.
and so this isn't going to be just any other game for me, because this is going to be the first proper game of rugby I take my daughter to. I'm being very self-indulgent here, talking about me actually being able to share something with my daughter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I will have no idea how Cardiff get on until I get home, because there is very little signal in Sandy Park.
There is none, but there is a lovely matcha van. Well, a coffee van, but they do a lovely matcha.
That's just woke nonsense to me. I will have a coffee and be playing my daughter up with juice and snacks. Anyway, unless anyone has any other business they want to bring up.
No, there's no business today. We're back to the nitty-gritty of club rugby now for the next few weeks, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Right, so the only thing I've got left then is I'm just going to quickly round up this weekend's fixtures for those who are interested in the Welsh teams. Just you've got a 1 o'clock Saturday, Cardiff on S4C or Premier Sports away to Stad. Then at 8 o'clock we have Scarlets versus Bristol Bears. Then on Sunday, 1 o'clock on pay-per-view, extra special midday fight afternoon is Dragons away to Perpignan, and then just after that, 3:15 kickoff is the Ospreys hosting Connacht at the Dunbraven Brewery Field. That game will be on Premier Sports. So you can get all these games on EPCR TV if you want to. I just don't know why you would if you've already got something else to subscribe in otherwise. All that's left for me then is to say thank you, Dan. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Nick. Thank you all for listening. Ta-ra.
I'll start.
Nice one.
Good night.
Nice one.